She said it was just a few cents. Like I wouldn't notice. Like it was no big deal. But when someone plugs into your home, drains your power, and calls you paranoid for pointing it out, that's not sense. That's theft. If you've ever dealt with an entitled neighbor who thinks the rules don't apply to them, this story's for you. Hit like if you've ever caught someone red-handed. Drop your wildest neighbor stories in the comments and subscribe, because this one ends with sparks, alarms, and the most satisfying trap you've ever seen. I'm not a paranoid guy. I'm an engineer, which means numbers don't lie. They tell stories. They expose patterns. And about 6 months after I moved into my new place in Eastbrook Circle, a modest 2-car garage house with a small backyard and an exterior workshop, the numbers started whispering, then shouting. Something was off. It started with the bill. My electric usage had jumped, sharply hot in mid-March. No new appliances, no guests, no changes in my routine. But the March bill was up 22%, April 34%, and by May, I was paying nearly double my baseline. I work remote. My rig stays idle during off hours. My lights are LED. My HVAC is timer controlled. I track usage tighter than a studio budget. This wasn't me. It was something else, or someone else. I started logging the breaker panel manually, every day, morning and evening. I split the house into zones, watching for anomalies. Nothing inside. Everything tracked, until I tested the garage line. The exterior workshop, built by the previous owner, had a dedicated outdoor outlet under the eave. Mostly unused, but live. And one morning it read hot, not slightly, not glitchy. Hot, as in something had been pulling current through it for hours, overnight. I installed a camera, not the Ring doorbell kind, a weatherproof IR model mounted discreetly under the gutter. First night, nothing. Second night, wind. Third night, bingo. 3:08 a.m. A dark SUV backs slowly into the alley behind my garage. The passenger door opens. A figure steps out, slender, blonde, hoodie up, quick movements. She uncoils an extension cord from her trunk, walks around the fence, plugs into my exterior outlet, then loops the cord back to the SUV and plugs it into the port just behind the left taillight. Electric car, charging, from my house. I paused the footage, zoomed, brightened, frame by frame. The motion light barely caught her profile, but I didn't need facial recognition. It was Cindy Randall. Unit 7, the same Cindy who chaired the HOA Welcome Committee, the same Cindy who told me to mind the community guidelines when my trash bin sat out for an extra afternoon. That Cindy, stealing my power. I stared at the screen, not angry yet, just stunned. It wasn't just theft, it was arrogance. She didn't ask, didn't leave a note, didn't knock. She just took, then left, quiet, confident, like she'd done it before. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to be sure, so I let the camera roll. Night after night, 4 more times that week she came back. Same routine, same SUV. Sometimes she charged for 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, once nearly 3. I ran the numbers, estimated she was pulling 5 to 7 kilowatt per session, over $20 a week, more than $80 a month, from my outlet. The following Sunday, I saw her in daylight, HOA block cleanup day. She wore gloves and a visor, pointing neighbors toward leaf bags and assigned zones. I walked by with my rake. She smiled. "Morning, Michael." I nodded. "Morning." That was it. Not a flinch. Not a trace of guilt. She had no idea. That night, I exported the clips, burned them to a flash drive, labeled the folder Cindy Power Tap, and walked it to the HOA mailbox with a short, respectful note. "Dear Board, I've documented repeated unauthorized electrical use by another resident from my home's exterior power source. Footage attached. Seeking guidance before escalating. Michael." I expected a quick call, a meeting, at least a reply. Instead, silence. 3 days later, I received a notice. Not from Cindy, from the HOA. "Dear Mr. West, a fellow resident has expressed concern over the presence of a surveillance device directed at communal space. While we understand the importance of security, we ask that any exterior monitoring equipment be declared in accordance with privacy standards. No mention of the footage, no mention of Cindy, no mention of theft, just concern for her privacy. I laughed. Then I stopped laughing because it wasn't funny anymore. It was a message. They were protecting her, which meant I needed to protect myself with more than a camera, with something she couldn't ignore. The HOA had made it clear. They weren't going to help. Cindy? She wasn't just untouchable. She was protected, shielded by position, by relationships, by the kind of HOA cronyism you only understand once you've lived it. But I wasn't going to play victim. I was going to play engineer. I started with the outlet, cut power to the workshop entirely for one night, just to confirm. Sure enough, the next morning, Cindy's car wasn't fully charged. I checked the camera. She plugged in, waited, then unplugged 12 minutes later. Unusual behavior, confused behavior, confirmation. I restored power the next day. She returned, back to her routine. Next, I took measurements, installed a current sensor. Nothing fancy, just a clamp meter with a data logger, hidden inside the panel, invisible from the outside. I matched the draw with timestamps from the camera footage. Every time she plugged in, the spike was clean, consistent, and above all, measurable. She was charging at about 240 volts through a level 2 converter, which she must have had in the back of her SUV. It wasn't just casual theft. It was organized. So I organized back. I designed what I called the power cut trap. Here's how it worked. A current sensor tied to a relay switch. If power flowed through the line for longer than 15 minutes without manual activation, it triggered a cutoff. At the same moment, it fired a low-voltage pulse to a separate system, a wireless transmitter. That transmitter triggered a horn, a bright LED, and a notification to my phone, all encased in a waterproof junction box tucked discreetly under the overhang beside the outlet. Totally legal, totally safe, totally impossible to ignore. Took me 2 nights to install and calibrate. I tested it with my own load, a space heater. 15 minutes in, the system tripped flawlessly. Power shut off. The LED strobed red. The horn let out a single piercing whoop, just loud enough to startle, not enough to disturb the whole street. It worked. Now I just needed her to take the bait. She came back 2 nights later. 3:11 a.m. The SUV rolled in, just like always. She got out in her robe this time. Looked tired. Routine. Plugged in. Didn't even glance at the outlet. Didn't notice the new cover plate. Didn't question the silence. The camera caught her walking back to the driver's seat, door closing with a soft click. Then the clock started ticking. 14 minutes passed. I watched from my phone. Sensor showed current flow. System was live. I sat in the kitchen with my laptop, monitoring the logs in real time. At 15:01, the trap triggered. Click. Power. Cut. Whoop. LED. Flashing. Inside the car, I saw her head jerk up. She opened the door. Looked back. Confusion. Then, panic. She got out, circled to the back, checked the plug. Nothing. No charge. The light on her converter was dark. She stepped back and stared at the outlet. The red LED blinked like an accusation. Then the horn hit again. 2 sharp beeps this time. She looked up, straight into the lens. The camera caught the whole thing. She yanked the cord out of the outlet, threw it into her trunk, got into the SUV, and sat there for nearly 2 minutes. Engine off. Then finally, slowly, she reversed and drove off. No burnout, no dramatics, just retreat. The next morning, the trap reset. I reviewed the footage, made backups, and for the first time in weeks, I drank my coffee without checking the breaker logs. But I wasn't done. I uploaded the footage to a private link, added a caption, "Unauthorized charging attempt. HOA refused to act." So I did. Then I sent the link to every board member, privately. No drama, no public call-out, just the facts. By noon, I had 3 replies. One was from Jake, younger guy, recently joined the board. He wrote, "Saw the footage. Wow, let's talk. You've got more support than you think. 2 hours later, Amanda from the finance committee emailed me. We had no idea. Thank you for documenting so thoroughly. Expect some noise. Stay calm. At 4:35 p.m., the official HOA thread posted a Notice of Special Board Review, Allegations of Unauthorized Utility Use, scheduled for Saturday, 3 days away. Cindy? Radio silence. No knock, no message. But that Thursday, I noticed something different. The SUV wasn't in her driveway. It was parked 2 blocks down, plugged into a public charging station, where it belonged. Saturday came fast. The meeting was packed. Half the neighborhood showed up. Folding chairs, notepads, curiosity thick in the air. Cindy sat near the front, chin high, hands clasped. I stood in the back. Jake opened the floor, then played the footage. No commentary, just 3 minutes of perfect damning video. Silence, then murmurs. Then Amanda cleared her throat and said, "Let the record show. This footage confirms repeated unauthorized power use by a board member." Then she looked directly at Cindy. "Would you like to respond?" Cindy didn't flinch. Not at first. She adjusted her posture, glanced around the room like a school principal addressing unruly students, and then leaned into the mic. Her voice was calm, precise, like she'd rehearsed every word. "Let me start by saying, I've always acted in the best interest of this community. Any suggestion that I've done otherwise is based on misinterpretation and, quite frankly, an attempt to humiliate." Someone coughed. She ignored it. "Yes, I parked in the alley. Yes, I used what I believed to be a publicly accessible outlet. I had no reason to think it wasn't intended for communal use. It's in an exterior zone, with no signage, no barrier." Jake interrupted. "Cindy, it's mounted on the side of Mr. West's private garage." A beat. She didn't blink. "I'm not an electrician. I saw no clear boundary. It was dark. I was in a rush." Amanda leaned forward. "You did this multiple times." Cindy shifted. "As I said, I believed it was okay to siphon power from a neighbor in the middle of the night." That came from someone in the second row. Laughter. Soft, nervous. Cindy stiffened. "This feels like a witch hunt." Now Jake smiled. Not cruelly, just tired. "Cindy, no one here is burning you, but you did plug into someone else's power, repeatedly without permission. You were caught, and our job is to respond." She folded her arms. "So respond." And they did. They went into executive session for 20 minutes. When they returned, Amanda read from a printed statement. "In light of the evidence provided, and the confirmation of multiple incidents of unauthorized private utility use, the board has voted to suspend Ms. Randall from all HOA committee responsibilities for a period of 1 year. Additionally, we request formal reimbursement to Mr. West in the amount of $214.37, equal to the estimated power draw over the logged period." Murmurs again. A few raised eyebrows. Someone clapped once, then stopped. Cindy? Silent. She stood, turned, and walked straight out. Nobody followed her. After the meeting, people came up to me, neighbors I barely knew, thanking me. Some just nodded. One guy, tall, gray ponytail, drove the old Jeep and said, "You handled it right. Quiet, clean." Another woman said, "I was too scared to say anything when she reported me for lawn clutter." This felt right. I just smiled and nodded. I didn't need the praise. I just needed it to be over. But it wasn't. Not yet. 2 days later, a manila envelope appeared on my porch. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note. "Just because you won doesn't make you right. Enjoy the victory while it lasts." Below it, a printed photo of my garage, shot from a car window. Recent. Deliberate. I checked my camera logs. No match. Whoever delivered it, they didn't walk up. They tossed it from the street. Cindy. Had to be. I called Jake. Told him what happened. He paused, then said, "She's off the board. She can't touch you anymore. But document everything. If she shows up again, we go straight to the police." I did exactly that. Camera upgraded, new angles, motion alerts active. I even added a second relay system to the outlet. One that logs every microspike of current in real time to a cloud server. Cindy didn't come back. Not that week, not the next. But the SUV, still parked in the neighborhood, just farther away. Watching, maybe. And then came the knock. Not from her, from Jake. It was a Friday, early evening. He had a small envelope in hand and a smirk on his face. "You're gonna like this." Inside, a printed flyer. Sunset Alley Safety and Security Initiative, sponsored by Eastbrook Circle. HOA below it. All outdoor electrical access points must be clearly marked and secured. Any use of private utilities without express consent is subject to review and enforcement. First sponsor, M. West. Resident, engineer, and quiet hero. I didn't laugh. Not out loud. But damn, it felt good. Amanda sent me a text that night. "Want to tell your story at the next HOA social? It's a good reminder that privacy matters." I wrote back, "Only if I get to bring props." She replied, "Only if you bring the trap." We hosted it on my lawn. Folded chairs, lemonade. I placed the original relay box on the table like a trophy. People asked questions. I answered. Nobody mentioned Cindy, but everyone knew. That was enough. It's quiet now. Bills are back to normal. Outlets still there. But now it's locked, weather-sealed, and labeled in bold. Private property, monitored 24/7. The camera still blinks red, not as a threat, just as a reminder. To anyone watching, the trap didn't just catch Cindy, it triggered something else. A shift in tone, in trust, in how people saw me and how they saw her. Before, I was just the new guy with a tidy lawn and a quiet garage. After, I was the guy who caught Cindy Randall stealing power with a DIY system and the patience of a saint. They called me the engineer at the next cookout, half as a joke, half with genuine respect. I didn't chase that attention, but I didn't ignore it either. I added signage near the garage. Security monitored. Ask about the circuit trap. People did ask. I explained the system at least a dozen times. One neighbor, George, 2 houses down, asked if I'd help him wire something similar behind his shed. Turns out someone had been borrowing his hose line for garden water. Different tool, same kind of thief. That's when I realized Cindy wasn't the only one. She was just the boldest. But the HOA, as it stood, had enabled people like her for years. Subtly, passively, sometimes openly. Because most people don't have cameras, or the skills, or the time. They shrug. They pay the extra bill. They avoid conflict. I was just the first person to push back, precisely, cleanly, and without raising my voice. And that scared people like Cindy more than yelling ever could. The HOA kept quiet for a while. No new emails. No more privacy complaints. Cindy's name disappeared from the meeting agenda permanently. Amanda later told me she'd requested to be removed from all future internal correspondence. She didn't quit the neighborhood, though. I still saw her from time to time, walking briskly in her visor, pretending not to notice anyone. But the SUV never once parked near my garage again. By October, we had a new topic on the board table: exterior power standards. Amanda pushed for it. Jake helped write the draft. I reviewed it, cleaned up the technical language, suggested hardware solutions, even included a basic circuit break trap design as a community sample. When it passed unanimously, I was asked if I'd demo the install at a weekend HOA hands-on workshop. I said sure. And on a breezy Saturday morning, I stood beside my garage, explaining ohm limits and remote relays to 10 curious homeowners. 3 brought notebooks, 2 brought donuts. One whispered, "I wish you joined the board instead of her." I laughed. Boards aren't my thing, but circuits? That's my language. After the demo, Amanda pulled me aside. "We're starting something," she said. "Like a club? Like a shift. People are realizing HOA doesn't have to mean control. It can mean community." She grinned. Weird, right? I nodded, but it made sense. Cindy used the rules to police. Now we were using them to protect. Late that month, I got another envelope. No return address, no threats. Just a note. One line. "I'm sorry I underestimated you." Cindy's handwriting. Tight, controlled, no signature. Just that. I didn't frame it, but I kept it, tucked inside the original trap's instruction binder. Proof of something rare, not victory, but recognition. By Halloween, kids were calling my garage the tech lair. I leaned in, strung orange LED lights across the workshop, installed a motion-triggered sound box that said, "Unauthorized pumpkin detected." The kids loved it. So did the parents. Even Jake dropped by for candy. "This neighborhood's different now," he said. "Better? Sharper? Quieter too." I smiled. "Depends which circuit you're on." The best part? Nobody stole power again. Not just from me. Anywhere. It wasn't fear. It was clarity. People knew the limits now, and they respected them. Not because they were told to, because they'd seen what happens when someone pretends the line doesn't matter. They'd seen the blinking red LED, the trap, the truth. Winter came quietly. No new complaints, no more odd charges. Just still evenings, clean usage logs, and the hum of peaceful circuitry. Sometimes I stood in the garage and just listened. Not for sounds, for silence. The kind that means everything is working. Nothing's leaking, draining, or being stolen. The kind of silence I earned. The workshop evolved too. No longer just a place to tinker. Now it was a neighborhood resource. Jake asked if I'd run a basic security systems evening course. I agreed. We did 2 sessions before the end of the year. One covered power, the other, cameras. We called it DIY Defense, Practical Tech for Peace of Mind. It wasn't about paranoia, it was about ownership. And people showed up, more than I expected. Turns out everyone has a Cindy. Amanda stopped by one evening with a printed copy of the updated HOA handbook. I flipped through. There it was, Section 5.6. Exterior power access must be clearly labeled. Unauthorized use of residential utilities is a direct violation subject to disciplinary action and restitution. She tapped the paragraph. Your legacy, I laughed. I was aiming for a smaller footprint. You left a bigger voltage. Fair. By New Year's, the community started changing in other ways. More solar panels, better lighting plans, kids on bikes again. No more, "Don't go near that side of the alley" warnings from parents. Someone painted a mural on the back of the HOA office. A fox holding a glowing wire between its teeth. Underneath, "Stay grounded." Nobody claimed credit. Nobody painted over it. Cindy? Still around, still silent. Her house got quieter. More hedges, less traffic. No smiles, but no more theft either. Last I heard, she declined to renew her board eligibility. Said she was taking time for balance. I believed it. People change, or leave room for others to lead. Either works. And me? I built something else. A small control box I named Sentinel. Battery backup, camera link, remote shutoff with log capture. No horn, no flash. Just a quiet, effective boundary. It hangs above the same outlet Cindy once used. A red indicator light blinks every 10 seconds. Steady, predictable, honest. One day in January, Claire, my neighbor's daughter, brought me a crayon drawing. It was of my garage, complete with the red light. She said, "This is your superhero light." I said, "You think I'm a superhero?" She nodded. "You caught the car lady." Fair enough. So if you're watching this, if someone's ever crossed into your space like it's theirs, drained your time, your patience, or your literal electricity, don't yell, don't argue. Just build something they can't bypass. Show them the boundary. Prove it with data. And if that doesn't work, wire the truth to a siren and let the circuit do the talking. Thanks for watching. Smash like if you've ever had to trap a thief with their own bad habits. Drop your quiet victories in the comments. And subscribe, because next time, we're installing motion-triggered lawn defenses and no one's charging for free.